Hello, Spark fans, and welcome back to Advancing Spark, where today we are talking about AutoML and data sciencey stuff, which is very exciting. But as you guys know, I'm not a data scientist. That's not what I do. I plug things together and engineer stuff. And so I'm very excited that we've got a guest on today's show who I'll introduce in just a moment. As usual, if you are new around here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you think of AutoML, because it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting tool to try and shortcut your way along the data science process. But it's not for everyone, and there's a ton of different ones out there. So it'll be exciting to kind of hear, are you guys using it? Have you had a load of stuff? Have you got a model in production that you built using AutoML? Would be really, really useful to know. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest. So Gavi is one of the principal data scientists at Advancing Analytics. Hello, Gavi. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Simon. Thanks for having me. And I'm extremely excited to talk to you about AutoML.
Amazing. Good stuff. And it is exciting because it is fairly new, right? It came out 6 months ago, earlier this year.
Yeah, that's right. It came out in May 2021. So, yeah, fairly recent, really.
It's cool. But for those sitting at home going, oh, what's AutoML? What is this thing? You want to give us a little bit of a background?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, AutoML stands for automated machine learning, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting for the machine learning workflows. So it does your data prep right through your tuning, your evaluation. It creates the model for you. It runs through various models as well with different parameters, and it's just a great way to give you a quick model, a baseline model, really, with very little effort.
It's like an automated data scientist. It's like just click next, and it does all the data sciencey things for you.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's very easy. I mean, Databricks AutoML, it's extremely easy to use. It's got a lot of benefits, really. To me, it's got four main benefits. The Databricks AutoML, they call it the glass box approach. And I think that's a pretty good term, right? Because you can look into the glass box and it's very transparent. It gives you a source code, a Python notebook that gives you the ability to have a play around, to improve it. And if you don't want to do that, you can deploy it if you wanted to, just evaluate how your model's doing. It integrates with MLflow, so absolutely great tool to use, right? It automatically logs all your artifacts, all your parameters, your metrics, your models. Amazing. The other key thing, it gives you the data exploration notebook. I mean, we can go to this later, but that's a brilliant notebook that just gives you a glance of all your data set and the features within it. And all this comes with explainability as well.
Very cool. I guess that's a big difference, right? From loads of AutoML around there. These days, you've got it baked into Power BI, you've got Azure Machine Learning, you've got other companies that just do it, like Data Robot and ones like that. But so the ability to dig into the notebooks and actually get at the source code behind it is a bit of a USP for Databricks, or?
Exactly. Yeah, and for me, that is one of the key benefits of using the AutoML of Databricks.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it'd be good to get that initial my first AutoML model type thing. Are you good to kind of take us through the process?
Yeah, I mean, can I share my screen and can I take you through how easy it is to do this?
That's good. Let me just switch us over. Alrighty.
All right, we're good to go then. So what you can see is the data science and engineering. So for AutoML, we've got to click on machine learning. And
I do hate that it's called the data science and engineering, and then there's ML as a different thing.
I know, right? But
absolutely.
But it looks nice. It's got AutoML right in front of it. There's many ways to get to this, but as soon as you click on machine learning, it's AutoML, and it's updated. So you've got time series forecasting now available as well.
That's runtime 10. It came in, right? That's
right, Simon. Yes.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press, indeed. So really easy. Click on Start AutoML. And there you go. You're right. You guessed right. So 10.0, we had forecasting within AutoML that's been offered by Databricks. So first steps, you need to get a cluster or select a cluster. You've got to spin up a cluster. Now, I've already done this, and you've got to make sure that it's an ML cluster. Otherwise, it won't work. So I've done that. select your ML cluster. And then you've got three options here, really. You've got your classification, what your problem type really is. So is it classification that you're doing? Is it a regression problem? Or are you doing some sort of time series forecasting? Now, I know that I would like to tinker around the classification because the data set that I'm working on is to do with classification of spam emails. So I'm going to select classification. The data set, really easy again. Once you have your data set saved onto DBFS, then it's just a matter of going in and choosing the data set. So here I've got November train as a data set that I'd like to classify. I simply select that, right?
Okay, so if someone's just getting started, they need to have at least saved the table into the Hive metastore. They need to have got some data and then done either save as table if you want it in DBFS or just create table over some Parquet, a Delta table, wherever the data happens to live.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what you've got to do. Yeah, so once you do that, really, it's really easy. It's a matter of just pointing it to the table. And you even get this schema that you can quickly just have a quick run through and make sure that, it seems correct. Once you do that, you can then select your prediction target. And it's got, it's either your ID or target. I know I'm trying to classify, and my prediction target should be a target field. It also does auto naming for you, but you have the ability to change this as to how you see fit. I'm going to leave it as the auto naming convention given by Databricks.
So that experiment name, that's the name of the experiment that's logged in ML Flow, so it's doing the tracking stuff, right?
That's right. Yep, that's right. Now I've clicked down on advanced configuration here. So here you can then select the evaluation metric. And there's loads of options here, right? So if you have a quick look, you've got accuracy, you've got F1 score, precision, and loads of other metrics. But with this data set, and it's quite an interesting data set, the motivation of using this data set is because I wanted to win a Kaggle competition. So I know with this data set, the metric to be evaluated is an ROC, an AUC. So I'm going to select that as a metric. And you've got further options here, right? You've got timeouts that you can increase or decrease. You can time box that. If you don't have a lot of time and you want to get a baseline model within 30 minutes, feel free to reduce that. But I'm going to leave it as default, 60 minutes. So it's going to run for 60 minutes and produce loads of models for me. And the number of trial runs is 200. So what you'll see is when you start this AutoML, you'll see 200 lines of different models with different parameters. So really cool. Right, it's as easy as that. I'm assuming that
if you weren't that happy with the accuracy of the model, you wanted to say, just try more options, spend more time doing more things, it's more likely to get closer to a better result, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you just got to be cautious that you're not going to be overfitting by running it, but for 3 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So, yeah, you can just play around with it, really.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. So once you get your cluster going, you've got your data in your DBFS table, tinker around the different options, and you can click on Start AutoML, which I think it's slightly off the screen, but it's right down here. It's a blue.
I can fix that.
There you go.
A little button down at the bottom.
That's right. So all you have to do is click on the big blue button.
Very cool.
And that's it. So if you look at the screen, it's trying to look at your data set, it's trying to evaluate your data set, and it's starting to train. This is going to take quite a long time, but I've come prepared. So
you've got a blue Peter. Here's one you made earlier.
This is what I made earlier. So I've done this, and it's the exact same data set that we've just talked through. And what it does is you get to this, right? You get view notebook for best model, and that automatically lists the best model based on the metric that you've chosen to do your AutoML. And you've got a data exploration notebook. So if you scroll down, automatically your best model is listed right on the top here, right? So if you scroll through the options, you can see that it's done loads of logistic regression models with loads of parameters. You've got loads of, what else have you got here? Let's have a look. You've got Light GBM as well. You've got XGBoost and loads of different models that Databricks AutoML has produced for us. So that's really cool, right? For me to do that, it would have taken a lot of time to come up with so many models with so many different parameters, right? So
that's the equivalent of someone having their notebook, plugging the model in, hitting run experiment and saving it to MLflow, changing it around, trying a different approach, hitting save, changing it around, hitting save again and again and again, and going, right, which one was the best?
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
So, and what it does is it logs everything in MLflow, which is really cool for data science. So you can see, with different parameters, how is that done? How is that metric then shown? And you can look into this in a lot more detail. So here, what we have, let's look at the best model here. So let me just scroll back. And as I mentioned earlier, the unique selling point of Databricks AutoML is you can have a look at the notebook and the source code, right? So if you click on that notebook, it takes you to a page where it shows exactly how the model was trained, all the different parameters, and let's have a quick look through this. So this is where data is being loaded, and you can have a look at the data set, and it does loads of things for you up front. And it also gives you the ability to understand how a model has been coded in Databricks. So that's really powerful. So if you don't know Light GBM, you can come and have a look at the notebook and quickly figure out, what it's doing. It does all the standardization as well, so training validation split. So it's basic, it's a baseline model, but to have all this done for you up front, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so it kind of almost gives you that's then a template that you can go, right, it's got you so far. Let's see what we can tweak and you can add in and you can enhance it and get even closer.
Exactly, right? You can use your domain knowledge. You can come back to the notebook. You can add on to it and you can rerun it. All get saved in an experiment in MLflow. And you can have a look at it as you go along. So that's really positive. It shows you the pipeline. And I think, I think I missed up here. So you've got all the parameters as well. You can see exactly what it's chosen to produce the best model.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. What I really like to show you is, Simon, feature importance, which is extremely important. And, just to understand how your features affect your models, feature importance, explainability, we've got SHAP as well. And because it's quite memory hungry, the AutoML automatically sets it as false, which is a flag, but you can quickly change it to a true, rerun the notebook, and have a look at your feature importance, which I really like. And I can show you this. I've done it as well. I've got one that I've done previously. It's the same model here. And if you scroll down to where explainability and feature importance comes in, that's a simple flag. So what I did, just quickly change it to true, rerun your model, and you get this very important plot to show, right, F34 in your data set is pretty important. And you can have a look at different models. You can go back to your, XGB model, have a look at what the parameters that was chosen by Databricks AutoML, and really get a feel of your models, your parameters, your feature importance, all this within 60 minutes.
Very nice. So the ones that didn't perform that well, you can dig in and go, explain why it didn't perform well, explain the decisions that you made, and it helps you better understand how all the things fit together.
Yes. I think this is one of my favorite, having explainability thrown in. It's definitely one of my favorite features.
The big question is then, so if you're just using AutoML as it is out of the box, and you go next, predict it for me, how good is the actual model it's made? How close do you actually get?
So, like I said before, I did this. I had a goal in mind, an objective to win a Kaggle competition, right? So Kaggle, great place, great community of data scientists and machine learning practitioners. And for me, I use it as a platform to constantly learn and push myself. So I thought, right, let's give this a go. Let's use a Databricks AutoML. Let's get a baseline model and see how good it is. And it's done pretty well. but I think there's room for improvement, and that's down to me, right? So I've got this notebook now that I can quickly take, make some edits to it, maybe even create some new features, rerun it, and boom, I can quickly build on a very basic model. And
so you're not going to win any Kaggle competitions with it. You're not a grandmaster by clicking next.
No, not really. No.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
But I think that's important to kind of set the where you use AutoML as a data scientist. So it's not going to say AutoML is now your only tool of choice and you no longer have to do anything. But it's that tool you now have in your pocket to skip the first part where you're like, what are all the different ways I could do, understanding the data, all that stuff is going, here's a load of understanding for you, here's a good start, and then you can take it and start tweaking it. Is that right?
Exactly. I think one thing that I also would like to show, Simon, is the data exploration notebook, which I think is pretty cool. So let's have a look at this, right? When you start off a project with machine learning, what you tend to do is understand your data set a lot better. You've got to understand the features, what the distribution is like. If you're dealing with a classification problem, understanding whether your data set is imbalanced or balanced is key. And what the exploration notebook does, it gives you a very good overview of your entire data set. So, you've got warnings that's already been flagged up by the AutoML. You can have a quick look at it and understand, right, okay, I've got a few parameters. I've got highly skewed. If I was doing this without AutoML capability, then I would know, all right, I've got to normalize it, standardize it, and I'd have a feeling as to how you need to progress with creating a good model, right? And this is quite time consuming. So if I didn't have this particular tool, I'd have to take a lot of time, understand every features. But AutoML does this for us with Databricks. It gives you a quick snapshot of all the variables. And this is another positive thing.
I mean, from an engineering point of view, that's actually really useful just to understand the data and do the proper deep profiling.
Exactly. Yeah. So for a classification problem, what I would tend to do is just scroll right at the bottom and see how balanced or imbalanced the data set is. And that gives you, so for this data set, it looks pretty balanced, I think, from memory. There's lots of features here, so bear with me while I scroll right to the bottom. There we go. So you can see, and it gives you, you can toggle details as well and dig down into it a bit more. You can look at the statistics, the standard deviation, and you get lots of descriptive statistics as well to really understand your features within a data set.
So that, is there anything else anyone needs to know before they can get started? Or is that kind of like, could they just spin up a cluster, get some data in a hive table and go, give it a go?
That's the objective of AutoML, really. So its objective is to create the best model for you using the least amount of effort. So all you have to do is exactly what you said, spin up a cluster, make sure you've got your data set in a hive table, 2 steps, and you're ready to go.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for that kind of overview of your first kind of AutoML, your first dive into the experimentation and where you got to. I think it's fair to say there's a lot more to dig into in terms of AutoML and having a look at some of the other types and trying to use forecasting, which is obviously new.
Exactly. 10. Yeah, that's right.
I hope we can drag you back in future to show us more bits of AutoML and have a look at Feature Store, which hooks into AutoML, so you can try and give it a better guess as to how to predict things.
Exactly right. Yeah, and I'd love to come and talk to you a bit more. I love to kind of show you, how I've taken this baseline model, improved it, and improved my scores in the Kaggle competition. So fingers crossed, you invite me back.
At the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, hopefully.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Gavi. Thanks for being on the show. And then just to quickly wrap up, we're going to dive into data science, which I know is rare on the channel, but we need to do more of it because there's so many more things cropping up in Databricks, and so much in terms of the direction they're going, in terms of Feature Store and AutoML, and in terms of kind of all the things they're putting into the actual ML runtime each time, which I don't really talk about because I'm an engineer and I do engineering-y type things. So yeah, we'll be doing some more of that stuff. We'll be digging into it in future. If there's anything that you guys want to know about the more machine learning persona, everything you've got in there, ML flow, experimentation, Feature Store, deeper into AutoML, and all of that kind of good stuff that fits in there, then let us know down in the comments. Let us know what you think. if you are using AutoML currently, or if you're trying to compare it to some of the other AutoMLs that are out there, if you're out using machine learning services in Azure, if you're using any of the AWS ones, got SageMaker, that kind of thing, if you're on Data Robot, you're good to kind of see your experience of digging into the Databricks side of things and how does that compare for you. But yeah, as always, let us know down in the comments if you are experimenting and giving it a go. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time, probably with something more engineering. Cheers.